G'day, welcome to Market Sam After Work. Today I want to talk about these cartridges in front of us, which is the 243 versus the 6mm Creedmoor. In the middle there is the 243 Ackley Improved. I suppose basically what I'm talking about is in the people who are asking for recommendations or just want to know a little bit more to make decisions about what they're doing and what my thoughts are on it. I have shot a 243 for many years. In a very normal, average sort of case, a 1 in 10 twist, 24-inch barrel, in a Hauer 1500, shoots super accurately, coming up to 3,000 rounds, still shooting super accurately. I've just changed the barrel, not because it's worn, because I wanted to test the 243 Ackley Improved, and just started with that. Seen some nice gains in a little bit in the chamber design, having a bit more boiler room, a bit more capacity, but also the fact that I've stepped up to a 1 in 8 twist and a 27-inch barrel in the same format. So I'm expecting good things out of it, running the 109 Burger bullet. Probably, that's what we started with anyway, but that was that. The 243, what it was running was the 110 twist, so the maximum I could run was the 95 grain for what I wanted to do. Burger bullet once again. Okay, the 6mm Creedmoor we've now had for a bit under a year now. That's in another Hauer 1500, 26-inch barrel, 1 in 8 twist. It's in an MDT chassis, shoots really well, really like it. And I suppose I step into that through, what would I say, with all the new cartridges. And that includes the 6.5 Creedmoor, and that includes the, whatever it is, the 6.5 Arc or the PRCs or all the rest of it. With the understanding that they are largely a sales product, but product to create more sales. I wouldn't call them a gimmick. They're still a real cartridge. They've still got some sound design to them, but don't overthink the design. It's fairly simple sort of stuff. They're fitting in a bracket of bits that they've tested before and then carrying on with that and trying to create a product that's going to work, that people are going to buy, and buy new rifles and buy new ammunition, that sort of stuff, creating sales. So I have a little bit of reservation as they're going to be better than something else. But let me tell you what I've found at this stage of my thoughts on the differences between them. To start off with, all very similar. My simple core is if you've got a good 243, you're not making a huge upgrade to go to a 6mm Creedmoor or even an Ackley Improved. If it already works really well, stick with it, it's good. If you're looking at buying one, then what would I suggest? Well, let's talk about efficiency, I suppose, to start off with. Funny word, efficiency. What I'm really talking about is the horsepower, or how fast the bullet can, the round, the cartridge, that combination can make that bullet go for similar weight bullets or same weight bullets versus the amount of powder. On that score, the slightly shorter, fatter design of the 6mm Creedmoor in a 6mm bore has a tiny win. It is a little bit more efficient. Slightly less powder for a little more speed. Not a lot, but yes, it's capable of that. Not a lot of difference in the powder, so you're not saving a lot on that side of things. Not going to be a lot of difference in pretty much anything depending how you're using it. In the way of people talk, what's the barrel life going to be? Listen, there may be some tiny differences if you test it a lot you could find in there. You're going to find more differences in the shooter and how it's being used. Someone who wants to go to the range and pound away with 4 boxes of ammo in the 3/4 an hour they got at the range is going to see barrel wear. Someone who plods along sees a lot less. So it's more about the conditions, the circumstances, how hot the round is. Those sort of things are more going to be in control, and they're going to be all very similar. As said, there's a little more, and I suppose if you want to line up these three here, which and I should say it also fits in a lot of other of the 6mm Wildcats. There's the 6mm by 47. Listen, there's actually a range of them. There's probably nearly a dozen of different ones, which are all in a very similar place, and I suppose fit a little bit under the brackets of the Ackley Improved. And that is, in the simple sense of it, what I've found here at least is the 243 is going to have the least power, but it is very close behind the Ackley Improved, and the Ackley Improved is just on the heels of the 6mm Creedmoor. With a little bit of tweaking things, I think you can push that around a little bit the other way. These two here would sort of be 6 of one, half a dozen the other, and that's from the exact barrel length, from the exact twist you're running, from the powder you're running, and with all the lots of new different choices of powders, then that's going to change things around. I still think largely you can get to the point of you could put them in a very similar blanket, the Creedmoor and the 6mm Creedmoor and the Ackley Improved, and some of the other ones that are poor performance are very, very close. Very, very close. In this case, the Ackley Improved is only a tiny bit behind, and a little bit below that is the 243. But when we're talking about a difference of 2,900 feet per second to 2,950 to 3,000, or even 2,900 to 3,000, there's not enough in it to go and build a new rifle for it. If you're custom building one, well, that's a different conversation. And I should say, I've just shot the 243, like I said, I shot in the format using 95 grain bullets for many years. Recently, you just saw me using a borrowed gun. And this is a little bit what that video was about. I was using it in a little team challenge. Sam was using the 6mm Creedmoor. I was using a custom built, nearly 8, coming up to 10 years ago. A rifle was built when the 115 burgers were just released.
Now you have a shot.
It was built with no information, and it was a starting point. It shot really well and really hasn't been looked at for, well, probably 7 years, 6, 7 years. Not my rifle, my gunsmith, Brett Thompson, he was using it in competition. It shot really well, and then he's been on to other things, so it's been in the cupboard. But the reason I got it was a 243 in a standard chamber with a 1-in-7 twist and a just over 30-inch barrel. So I think that barrel's a little bit too long, so does he. But that was to see how it could perform. And it was performing the same, pushing a 109 grain burger bullet, different powder, a slower burning powder to suit the longer barrel. But it was running very, very similar numbers to the 6mm Creedmoor. Now the 6mm Creedmoor is only 26-inch barrel, and as said, I think it'll end up in front. But that was by really sort of optimizing the 243 and just using a standard 6mm Creedmoor. So you can't compare those numbers exactly, but it's sort of a little bit of a pointer case of if you really like 243, you can still go a long way with it. So, and I suppose that's really, I suppose what I want to get into is the recommendation or what my thoughts are with it. I would say in the design side of things, yes, the 6mm Creedmoor versus the 243, the 6mm Creedmoor is a little bit more efficient in its case design. In the way of making more bullet speed. In the shoulder design, a little bit like the Ackley, it's going to have a little bit more feeding issues in some rifles because it is sharper. It's still going to be decent, but it's nowhere near as nice and sleek and smooth. And what the 243 was largely designed about was being a super functional round in a mechanical sense. How it would go in and out of all actions, that sort of stuff. That 15-degree shoulder, whatever they are on those things, I don't recall exactly. But the design of it is nicer to go in things. A little bit longer, which means it feeds in a little bit better. Which also is the little negative to it, is that when you try and set it up with a longer bullet, fitting into magazines and that sort of stuff is going to be more of an issue, whereas the 6mm Creedmoor is going to fit into magazines a little better. That's what it was designed to do. So I suppose in a when you look at them in an outright performance, there's not enough in it in a practical sense. If feeding and slipping in with single feeding or that sort of stuff in a hunting setup, then the 243 may have a tiny bit of a win. In a PRS side of things, feeding out of magazines only, want to get the maximum performance inside your magazine side of things, then the Creedmoor probably has a little bit of a win. And I suppose that's where I would push into really what it comes down to my thoughts on the subject. Really all of that sort of stuff comes down to what you're doing. And custom built versus factory and hand loaded versus factory is probably a lot of where I would go. If you're custom building and it's all about you need to get, like you build a custom building a PRS rifle, then probably the Creedmoor has a little win. Where it can fit, you can then do the barrel exactly to suit all the bits and pieces to build it exactly where you want it to be. You're going to be hand loading, so all you're really looking for is bullets. Brass on one form or other where you get brass from, it's not that hard to get, but still make that a factor. You also have the option, like these ones here, we're set up with the little primer, so that's an option inside there for people who want to play that game. So there's, in the performance in the PRS, that sort of things, it has a win. If really you're talking about factory, so you want to get a factory rifle, use factory ammunition, then what's on the shelves is very, very important. There's a yin and a yang that goes there. Factory ammunition 243 tends to be everywhere. It's going to be in the generally the 80 grain to 55 grain to 80 grain is generally going to find it. There's 95 grain stuff, not that common. Heavier than that doesn't really show up, but for your hunter, for your plinker, for your general long range sort of stuff in the hunting, and a little bit, you know, like I use some of the Remington 95 grain stuff for even the long range shooting. In a factory option, then that works really well. And your on the shelf rifles are generally going to be the 1 in 10 twist. There is faster twist, but generally the 1 in 10 twist, designed to shoot up to 95 and down to 55 grain. It's a very good hunting option. In the Creedmoor, there is more rifles showing up on the shelf. They'll tend to be in the 1 in 8 twist, and the ammunition, which from what I've seen is a lot more scarce, tends to be in the heavier stuff. So it's coming into the 100, I think the 105 grains and 108 grains and that sort of stuff tends to be in the heavier stuff. But what tends to be and what is are two different things. It's really, what I'm suggesting is you go and see what your availability for bits and pieces are before you make those decisions. Ultimately, I think they are, all very, very comparable. There is some real, and I suppose I started with, like I said, a little bit of on the back foot with the Creedmoor. Sort of barracking for the Ackley Improved to be a little bit better than it. I think it can be a tiny bit in places, but the 6mm Creedmoor is still performing very, very well. But the performance is not everything. More horsepower is not what it's all about. In the way of how it shoots, how it's set up, really your plan of what you're building or what you're buying needs to come down to about what the availability of things are. And if you're after the nth of the nth, then listen, the Ackley can get there, and there's some other Wildcat ones that can get there, but the 6mm Creedmoor does a really good job. If you're really after practical use, really reliable, very close on its heels, and still capable, really all comes down to the shooter, the 243 is still very capable. I suppose I'd finish on the conversation of what's more accurate. What's more accurate, as people say, all the time. Which one's the most accurate? They're all exactly the same. They are all exactly as accurate as each other. The shooter's the big difference. In the way of ultimate performance, if you get a tiny bit more speed, then it can deal with the wind a tiny bit better, and so make it so that it's less pushed around by the wind. But when you're talking the minimal distance, differences we're talking about, it really has very little to say in the conversation. It's much more about the shooter, about the rifle, about the conditions, about the bullets, about all the things that actually change accuracy. As for the cartridge, listen, you may have a slightly better performing 6mm Creedmoor. Don't be shocked if there's a guy with a stock chambered 243 in a well set up rifle that's a good shooter that keeps taking you to lunch. But anyway, that's the conversation to go with. I hope that's of value to some people. Either way, that's my 10 cents. I actually like them all. They shoot really well. I'm looking forward to doing more with all of them. And we're probably that 30-inch barrel we're going to pull back to whether it's 26 or 27 inches in the 1 in 7 twist, and see how it really performs on that side of things. But still, they're all great. Still love the 243, and the 6mm Creedmoor is doing a good job. Thanks for checking in on us. We'll catch you next time.